The fraud and money laundering case involving Gupta-linked Nulane Investment is back in the Bloemfontein High Court today. In fact, the court is expected to finalise outstanding matters ahead of the trial, which is set to take place between January the 23rd and March the 3rd next year.
Yeah, so these include the NPA's application to have the Gupta brothers extradited, as well as their associate Iqbal Sharma's own application against the start of the trial. Newzroom Afrika's Govan Whittles is outside court. He joins us live this morning. And Govan, I suppose this case is once again bringing into sharp focus the issue of getting the Gupta brothers back to South Africa to account for numerous allegations against them insofar as state capture.
Indeed, and the question that we're hoping will be answered today and really expecting will be answered is whether the state's case against the Gupta brothers is strong enough to merit the United Arab Emirates granting that application for them to be extradited back to South Africa. That'll be tested in the judgment of the application brought by Iqbal Sharma, a known Gupta associate, on whether the state has given him enough information about its case against him. Essentially, this relates to a feasibility study that cost 24.9 million rand. The state paid for that. Iqbal Sharma's company, Nulane Investment, subcontracted it to Deloitte, which conducted it for much less, and the investigative directorate alleges the rest of the money was traced through a money trail back to the Gupta brothers. It's on that basis that the extradition application to the UAE has been launched. It was on that basis that the arrest warrant against the Guptas was granted, and today we'll find out whether the judge believes the case is strong enough and Iqbal Sharma has been given enough information for him to proceed with the trial. We spoke to the investigative directorate yesterday. They believe that they've done just that, and it seems like they're describing it as one of the attempts to frustrate the process, delay it even further, and thereby delay any outcome of their application to extradite the Guptas, which of course was made in the courts in South Africa, but also involves a lot of negotiation with the authorities in the UAE. So we're outside the Bloemfontein High Court, the Free State High Court sitting in Bloemfontein. That's where the judgment will be heard. It's expected in about 2 hours, and we'll be right there to get that judgment and also speak to the investigative directorate about the implications of it on their application to get the Gupta brothers back to South Africa.
Govan, shall we take a step back just a bit slightly for our viewers, for the sake of context, to give us a sense of this, what the story actually pertains to insofar as Nulane Investments is concerned, the Free State Agriculture Department, and this 24-odd million rand?
This 24.9 million rand was paid for a feasibility study to determine whether or not it's possible to conduct agriculture projects in the Free State. The specific project they had in mind was the Estina Dairy Farm project in Vrede. Of course, we've learned that 280 million rand project by the Free State Agriculture Department was described by the State Capture Commission as a vehicle to loot money from the state. It involves Mosebenzi Zwane, the former agriculture MEC in the Free State, as well as the former HOD Peter Tabete and the former CFO Sepati Dlamini. Yesterday, Tabete, Zwane, Dlamini and others appeared in the regional court in Bloemfontein. They're also facing charges of corruption, theft and money laundering, and they're appearing for the alleged looting of that money. It involves a 35 million rand payment from the Free State government, which was paid up front, and the sole director of Estina, Mr. Vasram, also in the dock. It was learnt that Estina was essentially set up to facilitate this transaction. Should be pointed out, that project never materialized. There were 80 people in the Free State that were supposed to benefit from this project. A few of them testified at the State Capture Commission. None of them ever benefited from it. It's been described as one of the projects that was designed by a criminal network or alleged criminal network run by the Gupta brothers that intended to use these projects to essentially loot money from the state. And it's on this basis that the investigative directorate has strengthened its case against the Gupta brothers. Yeah. It's interesting because they initially withdrew the charges against Mosebenzi Zwane and the entire Estina case, and at that point they were questioned on whether or not the state actually has a strong enough case to get the Guptas back to South Africa. But they've brought it back into court after making a number of other arrests and roping in the South African Revenue Services to check whether Estina and other companies such as Island Site Investment, they've also got a former employee of Sahara in the dock, had actually paid tax. So it looks like the state's case is strengthening when it comes to prosecuting people for the alleged looting of the Free State government in the Estina project. That, of course, all preceded by this feasibility study that was conducted for 24.9 million rand, and for which the investigative directorate says it's been able to trace some of the money back to the Gupta brothers.
Sure. The numbers really do make your head spin, Govan. Thanks very much indeed for painting that picture for us, and arguably no one was ever going to benefit from those agriculture projects in the Free State. Well, no one except for the Gupta family and their associates. Govan Whittles is live to us there in the High Court in Bloemfontein.